My name is KJ Davis. Hello. And I say that in a nutshell, I'm a working neurodivergent matriarch, military vet spouse, small business owner, and descriptive fantasy sci-fi author. That's quite a mouthful, but it's kind of a Jane of all trades. Out of necessity. I have a large family of both blood and extended that I care for, lots of special needs, lots of unique individuals, and we all love each other. And each one requires a special touch or a good ear or a unique way of handling that person. So I kind of fit that little mama bear role. And I say that my business, A Little Help Company, aka ALHC for short, is a creative community network that hosts events or supports events for small creative businesses such as artists, authors, crafters, small business owners, and more. We specialize in fostering connections and support for small businesses, especially startups, in the crafting and artistry world. Through networking, online communities, startup services, indie publishing, and business resources. Our biggest thing this year we've been really pushing is to find events, public events, that are open to anyone, whether it's a traditional author to an indie author to an artist who already has a gallery to a brand new. But we find that in the creative, as we call it, community, the newbies or the startups, they just don't know where to go, or they don't have the resources to be able to attend these events. So we reach out to events, for example, like CantCon or Planet Comic Con or any of them, the local art fair, and say, can we do a booth? And this is what we're doing is we're providing the booths so that these brand new authors, artists, creators, small business owners can get their foot in the door and get started. And that's what we do is we provide just that little oomph of a help. Most people already know what they want to do. They've got their widgets, they've got their art, they've got their book in mind. They just need that extra little help so that they can focus on their widget, their concept, and we can help with the background stuff so that they can be successful. So that's my company and that's me.
Okay, tell me what counts, because I think it's interesting, your definition. What counts as a creative small business to you?
I think a creative small business is anything where you, for lack of a better term, where you create. That meaning that you have an idea, a concept, a product and or a service, and you are wanting to share that with the world in a business manner. You've done. I have one lady that I just helped with. They have cooked and made snacks for their family for years. And their husband managed to ferret away one of her little snack mixes in a Ziploc bag, took it to work, and all of his buddies paid him to get her to make more. And so the crazy snack lady came about. And that night he came home with several hundreds of dollars. And she was like, people are going to pay you for me to make my snack mixes? And he's like, yes, and they want bulk. So it's things like that. There's also artists that love their art, and they're amazing artists out there. They just haven't gotten their foot into the commercial side of art. Everyone can be an artist, but when you cross that threshold versus personal art versus I want to share it and potentially sell it to the world, the commerce side of a creative business, that's what I consider a small creative business. Larger ones that I don't think would benefit from my services simply because they are established, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Books A Million, those companies, or even an idol of mine, Brandon Sanderson. He's an author, he's amazing, and he's got thousands of books. He's not going to need my services. I help the little fish, not the big fish. I'm a guppy farmer.
Can I ask, what does success look like for you, for your clients? And when the people come in, when these creatives come in, what often does success look like for them? Or they just look, I just want anybody to buy my book, or are they like, no, I have a vision for where I want the success to go?
I feel that it is definitely a journey. I feel one of the biggest philosophies that I try and pass on to the creatives that I help is that you need to celebrate your successes no matter what. Everyone has these great ideals of becoming the next Stephen King, the next Van Gogh, the next Amazon. That's great. Those are the pinnacle of the mountain. You want to become an actor, the likes of Liam Neeson, fine, but you've got to start at the bottom of the mountain. And you know what? You go a little bit. You want to have the greatest podcast in the world and get a Tony or whatever the award is. That's great, but celebrate that you started a business, that you talked to someone, that you went to a networking. Here, let's get you to an event, and you talk to just 5 people for a 3-day event. I call that a success. That's baby steps. Every little bit helps. One of my favorite book series, a quote, one drop raises the ocean. Dinotopia is awesome. And yes, it's fantasy, but there are some gems in those literary works. And I have a passion for not only helping people succeed, but also reminding them that success is a journey, and you can celebrate, you can be successful with the little things on your way to the big things. Yes, do a huge party when you get your first $10,000 commission check or whatever. That's great. Yes, we will go out and celebrate. But you know what? That first dollar is just as important. It's just as amazing. And that's where my passion is reminding people to celebrate every step of the way, not just, oh, I'm never going to be good until I get to that point. No, you're good now. You're good now.
Okay, I noticed when I went to the website, alittle.help.co.com, first of all, I went to the wrong website. So I'm like, A Little Help, Kansas City. That led me to a roofing business. I'm like, yes. I don't think that's the right Little Help. alittle.help.co.com. There were a ton of sort of mini services under this banner of helping creatives. There were a ton of things happening there. Would you kind of lay out, you don't have to mention all of them, maybe you forgot them all off the top of your head, but the menu of them, and kind of, if some of them developed the first thing you did and like, this is the latest thing I'm trying.
Right. And yes, we do have a number of different services because we want to try and be as open and accepting as basically I am with my family, that regardless of your path, your choice, your identity, you have a welcome place here. And A Little Help is just that. You may have a company that has already got the concept and the business plan figured out, but you just need someone to set up a database for client retention or a CRM. Great. That's one of the services. Or you're brand new, you have a concept, you've got an idea. I have another client who is getting their weaponsmith license currently. This is their last year. It's really awesome. He's also got laser engraving and some specialization. He customizes things. But so he's got the concept, but he tells me, I have no lick of business sense. I'm like, okay, so we're going to start with a business plan and we're going to do it step by step. So it's sort of a buffet, as it were, where you go in and you can pick and choose what you need. Some of them do work together, and you can build off of the business plan and then the database services and the virtual assistant services. But if you only need if you're going to the buffet just for the lobster tail, then just get the lobster tail. But if you just want salad, you just go for the salad or the fruit. So the services are meant to be modular for what is needed for each of our creatives, which, dealing with the creative community, you have to understand that in and of itself, the definition of being creative is that it is a non-structured mentality. So you've got to be open and fluid with your support. So that's what we try and do. We have a directory where if you're brand new and you don't even have a website, well, guess what? We provide our website so you can at least get that that little tag to get your name out there.
Right.
And
So we'll give you a URL you can put on your things when you send
yeah,
them out or tell people about it. Yeah, yeah.
exactly. And then when we do booths and stuff, we've just got a little poster and it's a huge QR code. So there's not even any paperwork or overhead, anything. And we tell people, if you're looking to support indie or brand new creatives, or even some that are established that are just trying to get their name out there, click on that QR code, go through the list. It's building every day. We're trying to support as we go. So the services and the resources that we even have a Discord server so that they can connect with other creatives. We have one that's predominantly artists because they are on their own unique community, and then we have businesses. So we're trying to get that up and rolling. It's a brand new thing we just did. So that would be the newest iteration of our services is the Discord servers. But yeah, it's all about being fluid and providing the services, providing this buffet of available services, and letting our clients tell us what they need instead of sitting down and saying, well, you want a business, you got to do this, 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 and this. We know what you need to do, but you probably already know most of what you want to do.
Okay, so you yourself are a genre fiction writer, so it seems natural. Oh, sci-fi, fantasy matches in with creatives, and then hey, covers and fantasy art and sci-fi art. That how do you intersect with the world of CanCon and gaming?
Well, personally, I am also a nerd. My family plays D&D every Sunday. We have actually had what we call we're old school red box Gen Xers here. We have a round robin campaign where we have had this going on for, I think, a little over 10 years now, where we will do a campaign for one DM and then we'll trade off and somebody else DMs and we go through a cycle.
Everybody dreams of doing this.
Everybody gets to DM that wants to. They don't have to.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask.
They're very nervous. We had one last two campaigns. She wanted to try it out. So we did just a tester and it was like 1 or 2 levels, but she got to find out what it was like on the other side of the screen. And we all helped out. We were all giving advice and everything. It was really a great mini little, I wouldn't necessarily, I guess I'd call it a mini campaign because it was only a couple of levels, but it gave them that experience. So, and we game and we've been gaming with our family. So as far as the business and me as an author.
I want to ask about that because sure. That's interesting. That seems like a microcosm or another version of what you talked about from the beginning. Like, yep. I'm the mama bear. I'm helping people, facilitating. I have been in situations where somebody is the gamer who's trying GMing for the first time. So they're going to be in charge of the table and run the story. The other players can't help but insert too much and helping a little too much. For you, when I think about what you said, helping creatives take that next step, how do you avoid, like, I have wisdom and I've done this before and I just want to impart that wisdom to you. How do you balance that with what is your vision for what you want to do? So this new GM, their GMing is not going to be like the previous dungeon master, just like this creative coming in is not going to be like the last creative. How do you balance helping versus flourishing, helping along?
Yes. I also go back to some of the training that I had many moons ago at a younger stage in my life when I went to a number of business seminars. And I can't remember where it was, Brian Tracy, Wayne Dyer, but they said the first thing that will impress someone more and get things rolling more in a business communication is to start not by saying what you know and what you should be doing, but start by asking questions. And I since have kind of rolled that into my life where in helping a new gamer or player or helping a creative, I start by sitting down and asking questions. I always ask first, then I tell, because if I ask first, then I will know where they're at and where they're wanting to be. I could spout out tons of information as a Gen Xer, as a red boxer, as a business owner, as an author that's published. I can do tons of things, but maybe this person really just wanted to know how to use a Canon printer. you know? So if I'm vomiting words at them and it's not the words that they need at the time, then I'm in the wrong, regardless of the information. So it's better to ask first and listen to what they say as far as what they're wanting to accomplish. And then I find the information. Going back to that example of our family, and this gal wanted to try, she had obviously been gaming with this for a while. And so she knew this side of the screen, but the other side, as we know, is a completely different monster. And so she was like, well, I kind of want to do this, but I'm really nervous. And I know a couple of key players in our group are just ornery. We'll just leave it at that.
That's a nice way of saying it. Yes.
Yeah, you know, the chaotic ones. She's like, I'm really scared. And I was like, well, sweetie, how about this? Why don't we figure out what your goal is? You're wanting to DM. What kind of thing are you thinking of doing? And let's see if we can find something that fits that, or we can tailor it or homebrew it or whatever. So we got to collaborating, and it's kind of the same thing. Is I find out what they want or what their goal is. And, you know, it's point A to point Z. Okay, well, there's an in between that we got to work on. And that's where we talk and we figure out the little bits between point A and point Z.
What will it look like? What will A Little Help Co.'s presence at the convention look like? Is it more than just the badge on the website, or are you going to be there with a booth? And then what's the booth going to look like?
Well, we managed recently to be awarded the opportunity to be there in person. So we're very grateful for CantCon to squeeze us in there. However, their sign-up process was, we were on the waiting list. So it was kind of a nail biter there for a little bit, but we managed to get in there. And as I said before, our whole premise is that we managed to facilitate the booth. But we, as a company, we might have one or two. We have an info card and a business card, but our goal is actually to have not us, but the most recent creatives out there. I personally will be out there with my book, but we have 2 new artists. There's a potential third one. We've got the gentleman that I said that's doing the weaponsmith learning. He's going to be there with laser engraving and customization. And we're possibly even going to have Crazy Snack Lady out there. She's still working on some things as far as she just moved. So she's living out of boxes, and she doesn't know if she has everything for the snack mixes. Right. But she's even thinking about maybe just sending some. She works underneath the cottage law for Kansas and Missouri. So it's not refrigerated required, and it's self-sealed and everything else. So our goal is to facilitate the presentation of these newbies so that they get their first step. And they're kind of as training wheels. I've been to a couple of these as a representative of A Little Help or my book myself. So I help bring the people in or show them, okay, this is how we talk. This is how we set up a booth. And here we go. And as I'm talking, I'm like, oh, by the way, this artist helped me with my book, or I just started with this artist. And we just kind of help each other down the line as we're talking to people. And I believe that I've been also working with a CantCon committee, however it's called, or a couple of great people through email, and something that we have been doing on our own for other events. We introduced to that committee, and they are very excited to bring it out. I don't know if I'm allowed to say it, but it's a little game. The idea is that it encourages attendees to go out into the event and experience the event. And it's twofold. One, it is a fun little thing that an event can use, or we have used in the past, to raffle, to build up a newsletter or email contacts, or those who opt in versus opt out, of course. But also, as I said, a lot of our family members are either on the spectrum or special needs. And we find that individuals want to attend events like this, but they get overwhelmed with crowds, or they are, low functioning. Or
I'm just introverted, and so I can sit down at a table and play. But the idea of walking to the booths and talking to strangers on the wrong day can be too much.
Exactly. So this concept that we've presented to CanCon, if they announce it on their website or not. What the attendees will get to do, especially those who are special needs, is they have kind of a security blanket. They can follow the suggestions, and it's in a game format, and you can mark it off as you go. But you find that by the time you're done, whether or not you turn that card in for the extra, you have participated, and therefore it's not as intimidating because it breaks down this huge, amazing event into more manageable bite-sized pieces, especially those, for example, that are on the spectrum, and that the noises and the crowds and everything can just be too much. They want to be there. They love D&D. They love card games, but the idea of going into a crowd just freaks them out. So maybe holding that card, they can, I can go take a picture. I can touch a card. I can do this.
That's what I wanted to ask about, because the typical scavenger hunt or card that gets handed out at work conventions and work conferences is go up to booth A and ask them about their product. And that's specifically the thing I don't want to do. I want to look at your stuff, but I don't want to sometimes have a long conversation with you. So I was going to ask if this card includes things that do not involve having to strike up a conversation with the person at the booth.
Right. I believe the way they have been developing this, and they base it off of one of our cards. And one of the things that we did with our cards was specific that you didn't have to talk to people. It's an option. It's one of the cards, but more of it is selfies or take a picture or an activity that's already part of the event. For example, Planet Comic Con had interactive booths, and it was go play a game, and win or lose, go play a game or roll a dice or something like that. So I believe that the committee is mimicking those activities where there's different styles. Some of them are talking if you have an extrovert, but a lot of them are also introvert or non-intrusive or non-overstimulating activities where you can get a little check mark just for being in that certain area or doing something that you came to the event to do anyway. So yay, you've done that small little success. Going back to, like I said, our goal is just to celebrate the small steps.
Can I ask, how do you balance at the A Little Help Co. booth between what you're talking about, which is fantastic? I love it when they're local writers and artists. I made this thing and now I'm selling it. So you have a direct connection to the person who made this thing. It's the best part of going to a comic convention or a gaming convention. So I love you're going to help them with this. How do you balance that against the meta level of, I'm helping these locals do this and I could help you too? So how does the conversation about here's the local creative and also I help local creatives like this at the booth?
Right. What happens generally is that A Little Help becomes its own kind of miniature identity. It kind of has the superhero alternate persona, as it were. When I am outside of a convention, I am the face of A Little Help. And I go network it. Just like I said, I was a tad bit tardy because I was working with a new creative. But at events, I shift parallel into my author persona. And then it is that A Little Help has sponsored me and my fellow newbies at this event. And A Little Help becomes this third party entity. We find that not only does it help with, I've been doing it, but my fellow cohorts at the booth, my boothies, it puts them at ease because it's not, we're having to market this company. It's, this person or this third party has sponsored me, has given me the chance to come and sit at this booth to share my art or my engraved mugs. This is what I do thanks to A Little Help. And then if the conversation organically happens to say, well, can you tell me more about A Little Help? Then they wrap it back to me or they refer them back to me or we've got a little handout. And then it's just this is what we are, this is what we do, and here you go, here's the information if you're interested in doing that.
But you in the booth, I can see, I perfectly see the clarity of this. You don't have to be dual tracking your brain between I'm helping these people in the booth, but I'm also running a little help booth. You don't have to do those at the same time. Yeah.
Right. It does kind of become its own entity. And, if I ever get at middle or the top of my own goal mountain, I'm sure that I will be able to do more of a separation of that. But for now, it's more of an organic thing. I do have my two superhero identities, as it were. And at conventions, I'm the author, I'm the indie author that happens to be sponsored by, and A Little Help becomes its own persona.
I am curious because you have the experience of publishing your own stuff in a crowded field among many people all over the world who are writing genre fiction. Would you tell me the positives and the negative experiences that you've taken away as a writer at a convention about this is the great thing that happens and makes me feel like this was all worth it, and this is the thing that happens that I hate it and wish I had never as an author come to this convention, and this is the pits? And then my follow-up to that, after you tell me that, how do you translate, how do you get people ready for that? If they're nervous, shy, neurodivergent, they're nervous about this, how do you get them ready for the possible highs and lows of this booth experience?
Right. So the good and the bad, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
So the great thing I find being an indie author is that, and quite frankly, it's indie or trad. To be honest, if you write and you print something out and pass it off to somebody else, as far as I'm concerned, you're an author.
Yeah, a book's a book. These self-published books look exactly the same as the mass market books on my shelves behind me.
And you know what? Even if it's a printed off piece of paper that you got at your school and you're sharing it with your friends in college, you haven't even gone through the Big A or Ingram or anything else, that's still an authorship, because a writer writes a creative literary work of art and an author shares that work of art. How you share it doesn't matter. You're still an author. So that's my soapbox.
But that's good, because you kind of set people up. You're at this very base level. If you write something and share it with others, you're an author. Case closed. If they have some vision in their head that it only counts if so many people buy it, or it only counts if this kind of person reads it, you're like, nope.
No. Follow your passion. Writing, art, video gaming, card gaming, Magic the Gathering. It doesn't matter what your passion is. Do it. And you are that creative. So I think the good thing about me personally as an author going to events is finding a connection with those who come and they find out they want to read or get more information about the book, and then having that conversation and allowing it to develop and find out what their interests about my specific books or book series they're interested in. Some people find it very fascinating that I insert real life science into my science fiction, that I work with xenolinguists to come up with a new form of Elvish and Draconic language in my fantasy. Others really like the fact that I have talking cats and dragons. Go figure.
I would sell it to my cousin. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. One of my beta readers said, KJ, just tell them that you have talking dragons. You'll sell tons of books, because that's the thing. So it's very, it's personal. And I love the fact that I can get, at least at this level. And if the writing gods smile down upon me and I become as famous as the other KJ, JK over in the UK is, then fabulous. I will still want to connect one-on-one. I will still insist that my posse or my agent make time for me, even at conventions, so that I can get one-on-one time, because I feel that is so beautiful. Now, the bad part is it's kind of two sides of the same coin, because I am actually on the spectrum. As I said, Gen Xer here. I'm an undiagnosed, horrible Aspie. I mask all the time. And it's hard for me not to mask. And in business, you kind of have to get in person, you have to talk to people. So there are things that I do, but it is very scary for me. And I feel that it's helpful for me to share that with my clients to let them know they aren't the only ones that are scared. They aren't the only ones that are nervous about going to a public event and talking to people. They aren't the only ones that might have a breakdown, especially if they're like me on the spectrum, where you end up having to look down and color or do something else to detach and just have that moment. But it's okay. You don't have to be Pollyanna every single moment of every single day. You go at it at your tempo, at your speed. And if you have a 3-day event, a 5-day event, or a 1-day event, and you only speak to one person, well, guess what? You spoke to that one person. It's okay. And I've had those moments. I've had those breakdowns where I've still had to put on the smile and the mask. It's almost like one of those kabuki masks you put on, and you're smiling, but inside you are just a train wreck of emotions and nervous energy and flop sweats and everything else. So that is the rough part of being neurodivergent, and in the older generation, and having grown up where we didn't have those diagnoses. So you just, buck up and move on, be a good kid, do what we say, not as we do. So growing up in that era, you learn things that you just put on that mask, and it works, but it's still hard. And you have to acknowledge that turmoil is still inside of you, but it's okay. So you try and pass that on to others. The good, the bad, and the ugly, as far as your third question, your follow-up was, remind me again.
Oh, yeah. You brilliantly already answered it, which was, how do you turn these good and bad, those experiences, and teach them to clients? I am curious, in what you described, the problem is kind of it is a worry about the external environment that's going to happen and wondering if I can manage it. So a lot of sort of inward worry. And I think a lot of times authors, when they express a fear that I'm going to go to the convention and no one's going to want to talk to me and no one's going to want to buy the book, so I'm wondering, between those two things, do you find a lot of creatives are worried about the external results? No one's going to talk to me. No one's going to buy my book. They're going to tell me they don't like the book. I'm going to feel like a failure sitting there. Or do they worry, I'm not going to be able to talk to people. The whole thing is going to overwhelm me and I'm going to fail that way. Do they worry more about internal or external?
Well, the funny thing about that question is basically asking the same thing. Do they worry about failure? Now, that failure could be, do they love my stuff and I have to talk to people and I fail on talking, or I talk to people and they hate me, or whatever.
Cranky,
we ADHD, neurodivergency, and quite frankly, I think even neurotypicals will sometimes have these panic attacks. It's that worry of failure in whatever form that is. And it's hard, and it is acknowledgeable, if that's a word, because you have to recognize that, yes, this is scary, but you know what? Just attending the fair, one of the artists that will be there, brand new, very brand new, on the spectrum. They want to get into body art, tattoo, line art, that kind of thing. And so they're going to be doing doodles. Okay, so we've got what they want to do. We've got an idea of how they're going to do it, but they are petrified. And so there's this off and on again of whether or not they're going to attend. And so what we've come up with, the game plan, is acknowledging the concern, having fallback plans in place, as far as we have these little postcards for art that people can buy for $5. The $5 goes directly to the artist. A little help just kind of chews up the overhead of printing these things. But whatever $5 we get in for those postcards goes directly to whichever artist it's presenting. And it's a nice little picture of their art on one side, and on the back is a bio. So it's sort of like when you go into an art gallery and you learn about the art what it is about, and then the artist itself. So it's sort of a postcard version of that. So for this new artist, we have some of their postcards. And so if they show up, they do the doodles, great. Or if they do it just for a little bit, but then they need to escape and go have a moment, as we call it, that's fine too. And we will still celebrate the fact that they did that step. And if they call me at the last minute and say, you know what, this is just too much, I'm getting overwhelmed myself, that's fine. Their postcards are there. They will still be represented. So we want to provide a safe space. We let all of our people know that our booth is a safe space. We even kind of set up a little postcard thing for, if people show up at CanCon and are of a neurodivergent or cosplay, we have cosplay first aid that we do. So we bring duct tape and we bring pins or whatever. So if you need that, we can help that. But also we let people know that our booth is a safe space. If you need just a moment to look like you're shopping, but you're really just getting over a STEM session, you can stand in front of my booth as long as you need to. We will talk about trains or whatever your focus is until we are blue in the face, until we see your breathing comes down and you're starting to relax. We have a case of water, or we we usually find out where first aid booths and where food booths are, and we can point them out, and we generally scope out the area ahead of time if we're a booth exhibitor, and then we find out, okay, well, this seems like a quieter area, so if someone comes to our booth, we can direct them to that. So we try and provide that safe space.
You sort of publicize a touch of, this is a place where we understand. So if you're looking around and you don't know who understands, you could see us and we understand. We
get it, and we won't point it out. It's just going to be a natural acceptance and a place that it's okay. So both on either side of that table, it's going to be that way.
Okay, so I won't ask you to lock in the stable of these are the people who are definitely going to be at the booth now, because some of them might bow out. I've had cons where I'm like, I'm too tired, I ain't going. So I totally get it. Do you know how many over the course of like a 2 or 3 day stint at CanCon do you think you're going to run through? How many creatives will show up?
Right. I believe the preference for the event owners is that there's like a 2-person per booth, and we have a double table booth. Okay. So we're going to try and keep it for a day, just out of respect for the event. This is our first year at the event. Hopefully it will be an ongoing thing, but we understand there's a lot of applicants, and so we'll be in the line next year when it comes up. But for this year, we're going to try and respect the event proprietors as far as 4 to 6, whatever they say per booth. Okay. Those 4 to 6 individuals might switch. We'll have the total numbers there, but it might be that I, of course, will be there all 3 days, but the artists might switch or might trade seats simply because of, as I said, the one that's a brand newbie may or may not show up. And if they do, they may not want to stay, which is great because another artist that we have works evenings. So they actually can't stay all day. And so there's we work out the shifts. And so we try and keep it to that. So we do have one artist that's guaranteed, Jenny Hart. We have the new small business, Keys' Customs. He's doing the customization, the laser engraved mugs. Okay. And I will be there. So there's 3 guarantees. The others are fluid. And if we want to tell your followers and everything, just stop by. You never know what's going to, it's like Gump says, it's going to be a box of chocolates at a little help. You never know what you're going to get.
I have to tell you, I went to one time San Diego Comic-Con years ago before it had totally exploded, but there was still the place where Marvel and DC and Wizards of the Coast set up their thing, and the regular gigantic conference room, which was full of independent makers. I way prefer as an attendee anywhere to be talking to artists who are excited talking about their stuff for the first time than people who have their booth staff and they're already known and they've already given this spiel a million times. They don't want to talk about it anymore. New, fresh artists are so much more interesting to talk to than the people who've already been to 1,000 conventions and they're burnt out. So I would say your booth would, if I was walking through, your booth would stand out to me as like, this is a pleasant change of pace. I don't want to talk to the people with that glazed look. I would like to talk to the people who are interested in talking about their thing for one of the first times. So
that's true. That's true. I also find that, and this is going back to my passion, both myself as an author, but also the business owner, that when you have the small guppies of the world in business, and the creative community, the artist and author community, you find that the little ones, small fish, are so passionate because it's new and we love talking about the little nuances of things. I have a graphic artist that is really wanting to get into virtual reality graphic artists, and he was talking my ear off about it, and it was fascinating.
Right.
I don't know a lick about NFTs and the coding side, the Python side of graphic artists, especially when it comes to VR. But I felt the energy, and I was able to ride that energy with him in his excitement, regardless of if I knew it or not, because he was so excited. And then I actually learned a little bit about VR and virtual art galleries and stuff like that in the process. But it was just amazing to ride that excitement with him as he talked about his passion. So that is where I love it.